Hi and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at the Fender American Vintage 261 Stratocaster. And right off the bat, we have this nice brown, I believe they call it a brown lacquer tweed case. Anyway, it's pretty nice, orange interior. I will say I prefer the G&G version of this case better, but they're also a little more expensive. Case does have two snap latches, and it's pretty much a basic case other than that. Neck support, side paddings, but it does come with a nice case. And inside the case, you have your normal stuff that comes with these higher end guitars. You have your pouch with your certificate of authenticity. You have your warranty card, ashtray cover, vibrato bar, that kind of stuff. So this is your 61 American Vintage 2 Strat. And this is a really nice guitar. It's really lightweight. This is probably 6 pounds, 6.5 at the most. It's the lightest Strat I have that is not a thin body. Now, these at the time of filming are roughly $2,300, so they are not priced for your average player. They are a professional level instrument. So let's go ahead and go over them. We have an alder body, maple neck, slab rosewood fingerboard. You have 21 vintage tall frets. We have a bone nut. You have clay, vintage clay inlays, side markers. You have vintage single line tuners, single string guide, a nice nitrocellulose finish on the neck and body. The fret work on this is really nice, no problems, except for there is a high fret on 14, I believe it was. Maybe it was 13. It's just barely high. You can bend with it and get around it, but if you hit it too hard, it's going to ping out. It will play out, but I'll probably take care of it before that on the next string change. So that is technically what I would consider a quality control issue. You shouldn't have any high frets on a guitar this expensive. It is a really minor high fret. It will play out, but it shouldn't be there in the first place. So other than that, I have no issues with this guitar. So let's get on with the specs. We have 3 pure vintage 61s, single coils. We have 1 volume, 2 tone. Tone 1 is the neck and the middle. Tone 2 is the bridge. Nice 5-way switch. Now this is the only thing about this guitar, to my knowledge, that does not match vintage spec. It's got a 5-way switch instead of the 3-way that it would have had back in 61. We have a standard output jack. We have a standard tremolo with 6-point trim, 6 individual bent steel saddles. It's got your body contour, your belly contour, standard square heel joint, vintage style neck plate, standard vintage style trim cover. And this does actually have the old vintage switch tip that pops off easily and is a little more round. It does your truss rod does adjust down here at the heel, and you have a 7.25 radius on this. And I believe that is all the specs to cover. Nitrocellulose finish on the body and the neck. So let's talk about what makes this guitar special compared to any other Strat with a alder body and a rosewood fretboard. First of all, you have the slab rosewood, which is coming back, but it's not featured on a lot of guitars. 2024, it is showing up a lot more. So we have what is technically a 61 Strat. From the little bit of experience I've had with vintage Strats, but also watching people like Matthew Scott, what was it, the Emporium, a few other places that deal with vintage Strats norms. These are basically a 61 Strat, how they would have rolled off the line, except for the 5-way switch. They feel the same, they sound the same. Now, of course, if you were to pick up a vintage one today, the neck would probably be worn across the back, so you wouldn't have this new feeling with the nitrocellulose. So other than feeling broke in and the 5-way switch, this is as close as you can get to ever owning a 61 Strat like the day it came off the line. Of course, you can buy a vintage one and have a real one, but as far as one like the day it came off the line, this is as close as you'll ever get. And I can't say that this guitar is for everybody. It's expensive. It's got a vintage radius, vintage appointments. So no, this is not for everybody. I tend to like vintage guitars, the feel of them. I like the vintage radius. I like the sound of the late 50s to mid 60s pickups. So for me, this is a guitar that I really enjoy, but it's not for everybody. The nitrocellulose finish is probably the biggest thing that makes this different from a modern production. There are plenty of production models that have this vintage radius. When I say plenty, there's at least 4 or 5 running around at any given time. But the nitrocellulose finish is something you don't get very often. You will pay more for it. And it's one of those finishes that, without a lot of experience, you can't do yourself. So a lot of us will pay extra for that nitro finish. It ages differently, it'll color differently, and it feels differently. It's the only way I can describe it, it has a softer feel under your arm and under your hand compared to poly. Urethane's harder. You can put on a thinner coat. The urethane will not discolor and age like nitro will. That's good or bad depending on who you ask. But that is really what makes this guitar unique, is it's truly spec'd out to a 61, including the nitrocellulose finish. Now, as far as playability goes, this thing plays great out of the box. It's got nice low action, set up well. But could you build one like this? Probably. But without the nitro, it'll never feel the same. And we'll actually get into that. Behind me is my purple Strat. It's got the same pickups in it, a 62 neck. We'll get into how they compare, but nothing will feel quite like the nitrocellulose. It just doesn't. So let's go ahead and hear this bad boy. All right, that is the Fender American Vintage 2 61. And I have to say that this is one of my favorite Strats. Definitely not for everybody, and not even a Strat I use for everything, but if you like vintage Strats, vintage feeling Strats, while this is a brand new guitar, it feels great. It's just got a certain feel to it. It's the only way I can put it. There's a certain feel to this guitar. Now, if you've seen some of my recent videos, I have an American Ultra 2, and yes, that's much more player friendly. It doesn't have the nitrocellulose. It's got a nice satiny neck. It's got modern compound radius. But this guitar is every bit as much fun to play. It's just different. And neither one did I recommend for a bedroom player. So if you're a bedroom player and you're looking for something like this, the true vintage is probably the way to go. The American Vintage 2. You have your Squires, you have your Venteras, and other models. They're all great. In fact, we're going to compare some of them in the upcoming weeks. But if you really want something that feels as close to vintage as you can get while being new, these are going to be it. And they have others than the 61. They have the 73. They've got a 57. All worth checking out. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this kind of content, please click like and subscribe. Click the bell icon to stay notified. Leave me some comments and suggestions. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, keep playing.